All right, welcome to the Hermeus podcast. This has got to be episode 20-something. We've done this a lot over the past few years.
Right.
We got a real fun one today. We've got the flight test team here, leadership. We'll go around with some introductions, and then we're going to talk about airplanes because they're obviously the best thing to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
AJ, CEO, co-founder, that is all. Don?
Don Kaderbek, VP of Flight Test.
Pat Svatek, the director of Propulsion Test.
And Mick Mansfield, the director of Flight Test.
Awesome. Mick, I see you got an American flag on you.
Of course.
That's good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's do a real quick plug for Flight Test. We got a lot of activity coming up, AJ, and we need good flight test folks. So
Always.
And propulsion tests. So
Right.
as you see, we're sporting new jackets. So if you're in the flight test and you need a jacket, maybe Hermeus is your company. So go check us out on their career site.
Yeah, definitely make your career decisions based on swag that you will receive. That is highly recommended.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel kind of left out here, so I obviously don't have one of these super cool jackets because I'm not part of the flight test team here at Hermeus. But I have done some flight testing
Oh, yeah?
in my day.
Where at?
Oh yeah, Cartersville.
Cartersville's a
Yep.
good place to do
Yep,
it.
did some flight testing with a Learjet with a pod underneath. We were basically told the pilots like put as many G's on us as you can because we were testing some avionics. Skylar and I were on the plane together.
Did you stay awake?
Oh, awake? Yes, I like. So we were going through and we were doing like bank turns basically to put G's on the aircraft and the experiment that we had on board. We're monitoring everything, and we get to like 2 G's and we're like, yeah, okay, it's cool. And then pilot, who we nicknamed Ricky Bobby, you know, you might meet him one day, you'll get it. But he's like, you boys want 3? We're like, yeah. I have never seen Skylar's face so green. He just like sat down in his chair and just stared.
It's good to focus when you're under G's
For a
like
while.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we made it intact, stomach's intact and everything. But yeah, that's the extent of my in the air flight test
It
experience.
gets better over 3.
Yeah. I mean, most aircraft go to 4 Gs just to warm up.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Most G's pulled in flight test
10.
that you can talk about?
Well, it shouldn't have gone to 10, but it did. All right. And the jet was a little bent, but it's okay. It's a test point. That's what we do.
I tried for 9. I was given one chance to get 9
Yep.
and an F-16, and I got to 8.1, and that was all pilot error.
Nice, Nick.
I'm the lightweight guy here, just 6.
Just
Just
6.
6.
All right. Cool. Well, on that bombshell, we've got a fun little game we're going to play today. So we've got a bunch of different aircraft that we're going to take a look at and have a couple hot takes, just see what we think about it. Tell some stories, unique facts, things you all may have experienced with these aircraft, things you love about them, things you hate about them. Yeah, it's going to be fun. So let's toss the first one up on the screen. All right. The Harrier.
Wow. I don't have a lot of experience with this. I got a lot of friends that have flown it, and they speak very highly of it. Probably Mick has a little background and some cool stories about the jump jet in the Falklands.
Not so much in the Falklands, certainly in Germany, when it was the GR1 and the GR3, and great airplane. Point, again, I'm going to talk a lot probably today about point designs, but Harrier, perfect point design. No runways, close air support, Fulda gap. Designed for one purpose, and that was to stop the bad guys coming through the Fulda gap in Europe. And
What is the folder gap?
the Fulda gap is the area in Germany where we anticipated the whole Russian armed forces to come straight through in the event of a Third World War.
Yeah. So back in the 80s,
Yeah.
most of your combat-ready aircraft and aircrew were prepared
Yep.
for the Fulda gap scenario.
But I like the really cool thing about the Harrier jump jet. As far as I know, it still holds the city-to-city pair world record for going across the Atlantic because it took off from the middle of London and landed in the middle of New York. Because it can
Because
land
it can.
vertically,
No
'cause it
last
can.
mile.
Now, is this the B or the A? This is the B, right?
That's the AV-8B.
Okay. And so background on that, design in England, but it was a co-op with the B model.
That actually, most of the design for that comes out of McDonnell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And again, it's speaking from
McDonald.
speaking from the old, McDonald
Can you?
Douglas.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking from the old country, really good at designing stuff, and then we let America improve upon it.
Are you talking about the F-35?
That may, among many.
That and plumbing, and electrical work.
Yeah.
All of that. All of it, yeah.
Dentistry.
Yeah, dentistry. Good
What
point.
what were some of the quirks of this airplane, other than obviously its very unique mission set, landing gear configuration? It looks like they took a U-2 landing gear and just went.
One of the ones that I could always remember on this was the flaps auto schedule, and the nozzles don't. In that configuration with the flaps all the way down like that, if the flaps don't auto schedule, you can put the nozzles back and suddenly find the airfield going past you in plan view.
Oh yeah. See that.
which is not great.
You also have a water injection on the Pegasus engine too.
You do.
Interesting.
For the hover capability.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, it's a great way to not have to oversize your engine for an engine out.
Mm-hmm.
Need some extra power in an
Yep.
emergency. But,
And if you've
helps.
ever seen the Harrier demonstrate itself in the air show arena, I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to do the nod to the crowd. Pretty interesting, unique capability for that aircraft.
Just a little,
Yep, you see them just bow the nose and
the best dancer out there. Nice.
Another little interesting vignette about the Harrier is the ejection seat. It has bigger rockets on the ejection seat pack than most conventional wing-borne aeroplanes, because you can get that high descent rate going on, and if you do, you want to get out quick, so it throws you away from the airplane pretty fast.
Nice.
Also good.
All right, moving on. Oh, the ugliest
Oh,
airplane ever
wow.
built. There it is.
Yes.
Man,
Yes.
name it. Like, I know there's an airplane called the Super Guppy.
Mm-hmm.
Guppy just feels right here. There's certainly an old adage like, looks right, flies right. This one like flew okay,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they
It's
were not
still
going for
kinda-
style points.
Still kind of silly. It's missing the googly eyes.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with this one, quite honestly. Clearly one of the X-planes, and
I think this was one of the entrants in the X-35 competition, so
Yeah.
the Joint Strike Fighter.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. It
Yep.
was one of the entries. I know a couple of folks that actually worked this back at Naval Air Station Patuxent River. And I think there may be a static display of this at PAX
There
River.
is. You and I visited it about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. It's still up there.
So, why
It's-
does it look so?
I know Boeing were very proud of that one-piece wing. It's all that
All
that
composite?
the all composite, all in one piece. It's
Kind of interesting. High wing for a fighter aircraft. Not usually something that you see.
Yeah, that is true. High
Yeah.
wing and actually it's got a unique profile if you look at it. It's almost like a lifting body kind of profile.
right.
Yeah, very low aspect ratio and kind of like chunky fuselage. There.
Yeah. Clearly they were going for the strike part of it more than maybe the fighter part of it.
Yeah. So another vertical takeoff and landing
Mm-hmm.
aircraft.
although, I think I'm not sure this one ever managed that.
Did they not get there in the
I
first program?
don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't
This
remember.
one was
Good
the
question.
seats old version, the conventional takeoff and landing.
Right.
This is the like standard Edwards photograph
Hmm.
of an aircraft, though.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
So many times. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. We've got our version of that.
Absolutely.
Looks like it's smiling at you.
Yep.
That's at least it's happy. It's
It is
jolly.
happy.
Yeah.
And I always used to call it the sailor inhaler, just because of that giant
That
intake.
The chinlet.
that
Yep.
is the nickname it earned.
Yep.
It's not a type of gum. It is an airplane.
No, usually the type of questions we get from a picture like that is, what is that thing sticking out at the very, front?
Oh yeah.
That long probe.
Leave it to the flight test folks to
Yeah.
answer that one. Why do you guys want to know about the actual aerodynamic parameters that the thing is flying through?
Yeah. Stick it out there in front so you don't get the effects of the airplane, and then later on when you calibrate your actual air data system, you've got real good model correlation.
Yeah, the other thing is you don't really want to use the system under test as your truth source. You want a known quantity for your truth source for data.
Right.
And then you learn from your system under test.
Yeah. And some of the other programs we've been on actually use a trailing cone as well. So stick it out front, stick it out back. Get both sides.
Nice.
All right. Next up.
Oh, there's our bait.
Hey,
I'm
there
gonna
knew
keep my
he would
mouth
throw
shut and
this
just
one
let
in
the guys
here.
on the couch just oogle and google for a little while.
Well,
Meanwhile,
we're pretty
Mick-
proud of this one.
Mick is like,
Oh no,
Bombardier is so much better.
No, all three of us did this program.
Yes, we did.
So yeah, we came on board Gulfstream. What year was that?
15?
2013 for us.
13?
Yeah,
October
2013.
13.
Yeah, and immediately went to work on this program. It was in the build phase, so we got to follow it all the way through the build and put the flight test instrumentation in it while they're building it. You can imagine that's quite an integration effort as you're going through build to make sure that you get all the instrumentation on there. And we ended up working the program through first flight. So it was the first time I've ever actually did FAR Part 25, certification of an aircraft. And when we flew it, 2 signatures were on the airplane, mine and the FAA. So there was a lot of pressure there. And then I handed the pressure off to Pat to make sure first flight went okay, which it did. It was extremely successful. The big thing about this one was full glass cockpit?
Fully touchscreen glass cockpit, active side stick control. So no longer had a yoke, had side
F-35.
stick. And then if the pilot moved the stick, the co-pilot could see and feel the stick move as well.
And it had a data concentration network, which is software language for if you change one piece of the software, you're changing it all.
Yep.
Quite honestly, every piece of software, including lavatories, I think, talk to every other piece of software on the airplane. It was a unique challenge to get that right.
Yeah, it was Gulfstream's first IMA, which is again Part 25 speak for integrated modular architecture. And as Krash says, everything talks to everything else. And some good friends of ours that worked the avionics on that program had a lot of work to do into integrating everything into that cockpit. I remember spending about 8 hours on a ground test just going through data link, and it's like the Verizon advert. It's like, can you hear me now? Bip bop boop. Can you hear me now? Bip bop boop. Can you hear me now? And just carry on doing that for 8 hours. It's unbelievably complex.
A lot of preparation. What I remember, first flight on this, best first flight seen to date on Gulfstream. Every single test objective was met, and they stayed airborne longer than we thought we would.
Yep.
So we're very proud of that one.
Yeah. Walk us through some of that first flight, feelings the day of. Obviously, like we're teeing ourselves up for that, as we walk into next year here at Hermeus. Not just first flight of an aircraft, but first flight for the company. What is that experience like? What's going on in your brain, in your heart?
Yeah. So from a test perspective, it's unique because you get really nervous, wondering, did we dot all our I's and cross our T's? Is there anything else we could have done differently to get prepared for it? Because you don't want to hurt people. You don't want to hurt hardware, right? You want to be successful with the mission. And first flights are not just about accomplishing a specific test objective or a test plan and risk reduction for the entire test program. It's also about marketing. It's about showing off capabilities. It's showing off all the team efforts to get to the design, build, test, and fly phases that you do as part of an aircraft company. It's pretty exciting, terrifying and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, I think that for me is the biggest takeaway. It's terrifying. I have never done a first flight that I didn't have huge butterflies in my stomach the night before. You go into it, and it's kind of a bit like going on stage. You have all the butterflies behind the scenes, and then as soon as you walk onto the stage, it's party time, and here we go. This is what we're going to do, and as Vanna says, it's for the whole company, and the amount of press that you have watching you when you do these first flights is a huge undertaking. Keeping them quiet is also a huge undertaking. We did the C series, and I got the video of the C series gear going up roughly about the same time from the internet that I got it from telemetry. People are watching what everybody does when we, and you can't keep these things that secret. People start to look and pick up on it.
So something for us to keep in mind. People are going to be watching Quarter Wars.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. How do you guys get into that performance mindset? Maybe not just for the first flight, but in general, when The stakes are very high, not just from a hardware safety perspective, but from an organizational perspective and so forth, and broader implications downstream, national and so forth. How do you guys get yourselves and your teams into that performance mindset?
Wow, I
That's a great
think it
question.
starts from the very beginning. So it's setting a culture of going for flawless execution every single day. So every single ground test and build up to it, you set the standard. And by the time you get to first flight, it's kind of part of your battle rhythm. And it's probably already been determined by then.
Yep.
Just how professional you're going to be. Keeping it professional, very rigorous, dot I's, cross T's. Again, always striving for flawless execution, knowing that you'll never achieve it, but you will strive for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the, and it may even have been the G500 program, I can't remember, but one of the big takeaways, and it was a great little voice snip from the pilot was, "This is great, flies just like the simulator."
I
That's
do remember that. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that just because you do practice so much, because the team practices so much, the telemetry room, everybody that's part of that team to first flight. It's not just usually the 2 or 3 guys that are in the airplane. There's a whole ramp of people behind us that sits there and supports that. So it's really great when somebody says, "Oh yeah, it's just like the sim," and you're there. You've achieved something at that point.
Yeah, that's right. The team cohesion is super critical, and having that trust. Like, we may come from different backgrounds. For example, the first flight on that aircraft had an Air Force test pilot school graduate and a Navy test pilot school graduate, both on the flight deck doing that test.
And a Georgia Tech flight test engineer.
Yeah, it's true, in the back of the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, we always give each other ribbing between Air Force and Navy and other services that aren't United States. Sorry, Mick.
You're welcome.
But at the end of the day, we're all there to accomplish the mission. One of the phrases I heard from an instructor a long time ago, and it holds true even when we talk about engine testing or aircraft testing, is if you think your part of the aircraft's in trouble, mine probably is too, so speak up.
Right. Exactly.
Nice. All right, next up.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, the Spruce Goose.
Yes.
Fantastic.
What a marvelous airplane.
Mick, you actually flew that, right? You're old enough?
Oh, look out.
I'm in that little helicopter behind it.
Yeah.
It's not that little of a helicopter.
I've flown a couple of those that land on water, but of course not that one. What that had, 1 or 2 flights, right? That's it?
I think it was a single
Howard
flight.
Hughes?
Yeah, it was Howard Hughes. And
Yeah,
it was a
is,
single flight. They kept
Only
it out
one.
kept it out at Long Beach for a long time.
So why is it called Spruce Goose?
Is it made of spruce?
Yeah.
Wooden.
It's
Yeah.
wooden. So I thought that was interesting too. He took a lot of flack for this, but a visionary clearly. And it's interesting because he was a visionary and many years ago, and we're really touting our visionaries in aerospace these days. And we're making people coming up with crazy ideas like landing boosters and flying hypersonic. So got to keep the visionary stuff going, even if in the past people considered them failures. It's led to some really good stuff.
Best phrases I've heard are folks saying, "You can't do that." And the next thing I hear is "challenge accepted."
Yeah, here we go.
That's what we do.
Right?
Just keep putting chips on the shoulder.
That's
Fish
right.
and chips on the shoulder.
That's right.
Back in my early part of my career doing conceptual design, we had a concept that we worked on that was a seaplane based on 2 C5 galaxies together. We called it the Deuce Goose. Yeah, that was pretty silly. That one didn't make it off the drawing board, but that's okay. All right, cool. So Don, you said you've flown seaplanes before?
Yeah, we did at test pilot school, and it wasn't a seaplane at that time. It was a lake plane because we did it in California over Lake Isabella and on Lake Isabella. So interesting, characteristics and flight profiles on, how you land on the water. And I think most of the designs are pretty much the same. We've got that, call it a keel or whatever in the front, to push the water side. But it was a lot smoother than I thought it would be. Very surprising. And then, just the fact of being able to land on Lake Isabella, take a swim, and then go fly again. I mean, that's not too bad either.
There was a whole part of my childhood that I still revel in, which was a show called Tailspin. It was all about a bear that flew a seaplane called the Sea Duck.
Mhm.
He flew against all these like pirates that also had seaplanes. It was fantastic. I haven't got my 3-year-olds like sufficiently interested in it yet. I'm really working hard, but it's all like Jungle Book characters. You got Baloo and Wildcat, Kit Cloud Kicker, Shere Khan.
Yep. Stay on him.
Don Carnage. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, like this age of aviation, you know, where like Howard Hughes was one of the kind of great designers and thinkers of the day. There's just so much like iconic design elements. That's I mean, you look at these planes and you feel like you're transported to a point in time.
Right.
There's something about airplanes that creates like a very strong human connection. I don't know what it is. I mean, we have all sorts of machines in the world. We've got cars, we've got boats, we've got airplanes. I don't know if you all experience it. Maybe we're all too biased in this audience, but there's something about airplanes that people really get attached to.
I think personally, it gives you a different perspective of the world. Like you get up, you get at altitude, and you can see so much more, or you can be just above the ground going speed of heat and get that rush. I don't know. To me, that's what it is. That's why I became a pilot.
No, there's something about when you get aerospace in your blood, you get airplane in your blood, you can't get it out. And I tell you what, I still get goosebumps going out to Edwards because you can feel
goosebumps.
the history.
Nice one. That's appropriate.
Yeah. There's something about being at Edwards Air Force Base, all the history there that you can feel is palpable.
Yeah,
it's great. Very exciting.
I remember the first time I went to the back gate to go visit Balls 8.
Yeah.
That was special. So like as a hypersonics person, Balls 8 is the B-52 aircraft that was the kind of carrier aircraft for basically every cool X-plane ever.
Right.
Did it go all... I think they launched the X-1 off of something other than a B-52.
B-29.
Yeah. But like the X-15, that was the carrier aircraft for that. And then even all the way up to the 2000s in the X-43. The X-43 was a NASA scramjet demonstrator. It was the Pegasus booster. The whole Pegasus program, so it was an orbital sciences commercial development program. They first couple flights of that air launched rocket for small satellite launch came off the B-52 before they moved over to the LTET-11. So you go over there and you stick your head up in the wheel wells and you hear sand blowing around and little creaks if it's windy enough, and there's something. I mean, Don, you've said it a couple times, but like hardware speaks to you. Yeah. And so
and airplanes like that have a smell to them too.
They do.
You know, that's a very powerful
cigars and brandy.
Here, exactly.
And Jet A,
which is a good smell. Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on.
All right.
Oh yes, beautiful aircraft.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut and leave it all.
Beautiful aircraft, A380. Amazing, large transport aircraft, obviously for commercial purposes. One of a kind, really. It was meant to rival the 747, and I think they did a pretty good job at that. Might be a little bit biased, having worked at Airbus before. So.
I was going to ask you what qualifies you to talk about this.
I was going to say, I think Vanna's the only one amongst us that's worked at Airbus.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I never did get a chance to actually fly on this aircraft. At least not for test purposes. I flew as a passenger once, but beautiful airplane. I don't think you see a whole lot of them flying anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, I always kind of thought it was a design that really was after its time. I think the airlines didn't accept the fact that we needed another jumbo 747 type airplane. They had enough 747s. And really the demand to put 500 people on an airplane just wasn't there. And there's very few routes where you can put something that big and make it a viable proposition.
And with the development,
beautiful airplane.
It is. With the development of engine technology getting to where it is these days, and the reliability, you're finding less designs with 4 engines and more with 2 engines. The extended operations are getting approvals. Yeah, certification is right up there. Yeah, and it's amazing you get engines as large as you get because you have to be able to do climb out with a single engine condition, full of passengers, full of fuel. Pretty incredible engine technology.
Because I'm ancient. I kind of remember that when in the 747 area, it was 4 engines, 4 crew on the flight deck. You had a pilot, a co-pilot, a flight engineer, and a navigator. And then we went to the L1011 DC-10 world where it was three crew, 3 engines. Now we're at 2 crew, 2 engines. The next logical step is a single engine, 1 pilot, and then do we get to a point where there's no pilots and no engines? That's the next
coming
one.
with AI.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Yes, the AI will create the list.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Let's do it. That's fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of the kind of interesting constraints around this aircraft is the types of airfields that it can operate out of. It's incredibly constrained. I don't know what the balance field length of it is, but that's definitely, I think, one of the operational complexities around it. And then
The wingspan.
the wingspan, which gates you can get into.
Right, where you can taxi.
Yep. So I don't know how much that kind of played into the early design of it. What did Steve Udvar-Hazy say about this airplane? Anybody? So he's like the big aircraft leasing guru and has been relatively influential on most commercial airliners that have been built, where he'll say no, it needs to do this, and Airbus will spend a couple $2 billion making it do that.
I think one of the things he probably would say is, why didn't you build a cargo variant of this aircraft? You don't see it used for any cargo purposes right now.
Yeah, good point. Because that market's increasing
It is.
rapidly.
Cool. All right. Next.
Oh wow. Yeah, first shot at trying to do this, right? I think I had limited success.
For those on the radio, we're looking at the Lockheed XFV, the Salmon. So you're going to have to look that one up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look it up too and find out why they call it the Salmon.
Well, it is a Navy airplane.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe it swims upstream.
could be.
I don't know. So vertical takeoff, horizontal flights, vertical landing, presumably, although it does have gear there that might be retractable.
Right.
Can't tell. I think the
That
only...
looks fixed. That looks pretty fixed, doesn't it?
Look fixed to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Counter-rotating props up front, wingtip fuel tanks. It's like they took a starfighter and cut the tail off, put on 4 things to make it like a Christmas tree, and then put a helicopter on top.
Yeah, I guess the counter-rotating's for adverse torque trying to take off vertically. I can see where you have to do that.
Probably right. Yep.
Yeah.
What would scare you about flight testing this aircraft?
All of it.
Yeah, I think you said all of it. That's probably about right. The visibility isn't the best, especially when you're in a vertical position, right? You're not going to be trying to land the aircraft looking over your shoulder at the ground. And so how do you know how close you are?
Yeah.
How does the ejection seat work in that takeoff and landing configuration?
You better push it over horizontal and
Yeah.
pray.
Yeah, if you can. Limited
If you can.
control, with that. How would you control, pitch without getting some speed, right? So my
We've only
guess
got
is
2
the biggest
pictures,
thing
one
is
in vertical, one in horizontal.
Yeah.
So presumably it can do both and
Yeah.
transition between the 2.
the transition would be a big one. And then, again, takeoff, because you're probably in a very precarious situation just trying to get up to speed on that.
I'm
And then
kind of
I don't know how
thinking
you'd
about-
land it
That's the
vertically
one I'm thinking,
without, because we didn't have a lot of automation back then and, sensing what you're doing. I'd have to go back and look at the flight test program just to see, what the objectives were.
landing that backwards with conventional controls is probably a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, the internet will tell us
Yeah.
all the stuff we have wrong
Yep.
about this one. I remember the first time I saw this one, I used to get this in the mail, 3-ring binder, leaflet thing of airplanes. Like 3 of them would show up every month and for free. I don't know how they started showing up, and then you just accumulate these binders over time.
Right.
I had them with animals also, but I didn't care about those. The airplanes were the cool ones. So it was just this and a bifold pamphlet that's got all the specs and stuff. And that's the only time I remember seeing this thing in my life is one day something ridiculous like this one showed up on the doorstep.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, ridiculous is a good word.
yeah.
Hey, they're trying.
Yeah. Again,
All
there's
right.
been crazier ideas, right?
That's true.
Yes,
That is true.
Certainly. All right, cool. Next.
Machine of Justice. Yes.
Oh, it's the EX
The EX?
version.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's not
Krash.
the EX version, I don't think, but I think I recognize those tail numbers. Looks like you've got Eglin Test and the OT guys. So there's your developmental test and your operational test guys flying together. which is, actually kind of rare at Eglin. But good stuff.
Don, you flew this aircraft.
I did. I've got 1,000 hours in it at least. I can't remember. I got to fly it at RAF Lakenheath and at Edwards and Eglin. And, awesome airplane. Brought me home every time. So you're never going to complain about an airplane that does that. A lot
number
of capability.
takeoffs equal number of landings. That's what we
every
shoot for
time.
here.
I've got a couple friends where it doesn't, but that is kind of the hazard of the job. But really like this platform. Wanted to go into it very early on in my career. Got assigned to F4s, and I was, didn't realize just what a great thing that was to fly the F4 and then go to something like this and understand the giant leap in capability. So that was probably one of the best things that, multi-role fighter does it all in the weather, low altitude. There's just very few things it cannot do, which is, of course, why they went with the EX version. We're selling it to a lot of different partners around the world. A lot of capability.
I think one of the things that always strikes me is if it looks right, it'll probably fly right, and it'll probably be right. And the fact that the Eagle has been around for 50 years now, and it's still in production, and people are still buying them. It's like, it's an amazing airplane.
Is it 50 years already? It is,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I started flying it back in 93 and gave it up in 2009, and just the progression of the jet with the operational flight program software and the capabilities, incredible ride to watch us go from what it could do in the beginning to what it could do at the end. And can't get into the details, but let's just say we advanced the capability of, even our 5th generation fighters and 6th generation on this airplane, and it's got capability that is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Streak Eagle is, probably still
Amazing record
an
holder.
amazing record holder.
And for anybody out there in podcast land that can get me a ride in the EX, I'm ready.
So, fastest operational aircraft today? I think it hits 2.5.
No, I believe it
F-22.
is.
I don't know.
I think we have to have a chat with the folks down at Eglin just to see
Fully
how
clean, no
fast theirs can go.
CFTs, dash 229s downhill. Yeah, probably.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
For a little bit. That's it.
Yeah.
What's one kind of intricacy or uniqueness or kind of weird thing about flying the F-15?
Wow. Again, I think it's coordination between the front seater and the back seater with all the information coming in. That you have to be really, really good at deciding who's going to do what. Responsibilities in the aircraft are key to success, and you've got to be simpatico with each other. So that's probably the biggest thing since we've gone more to a traditional single-seat fighter role. But what made this special is that you could delineate duties, and if you were good at it, even as the airplane progressed with additional capability, fighter data link, and some of the other sensory input, the information overload was incredible. So it had to force you to cooperate and be really good, not just inter-airplane, but then within the flight as well.
Yeah. Fun fact, this is the first model aircraft I ever built was an F-15.
Really? You still have it?
No.
Ah.
No. It didn't fare too well in the moves over the years.
Oh, you didn't actually try and fly it and throw it?
Oh, not an RC plane. Oh, no, just so those plastic things from Revel that you pick up at Michael's.
Yep.
Yeah. That's cool. All right.
yeah.
The YF-23,
Which should have won.
All right. Say more.
I love that aircraft.
No, it's like Mick said, if it looks right, and it does, and a lot of people might think that is an ugly airplane, but man, that's a sweet looking platform right there.
Yeah, there's some kind of dark star feel to it.
Yeah.
Just,
There
how
is.
the area ruling is done, how the engines are set up. So, engine exhaust comes out the top of the aircraft
Yes, it does.
for low
Stealth,
observability.
yeah, absolutely.
VTAL, split VTAL, so no horizontal stabilizers, no vertical stabilizers, just a VTAL. Let's see, what are the kind of fun things? kind of a weird wing shape.
Yes.
You know, trapezoidal
Trapezoidal
wing
wing.
with leading edge and trailing edge sweep like that.
Yeah, and the engine, engine cell designs there. The way it's directing the flow. And my guess is has something to do with high angle of attack, controllability.
Angle attack loads.
Yeah, and the stealth,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I think the only of the few test pilots I've talked to that actually flew this aircraft, the only bad thing I've ever heard them say about it was that the over-the-shoulder view was a little bit blocked because of that trapezoidal wing and the tail layout. But not significant, not a major problem.
Any insights into the competition with, I guess it would have been the, what would eventually became the F-22 Raptor that won, this wasn't Joint Strike Fighter, I can't remember what they called this program.
What was this called?
ATF? Is it
Yeah,
the Advanced Tactical
Yeah,
Fighter?
ATF. That's
ATF.
correct.
Any
there
insights
was
into the
some-
competition?
If I remember correctly, it was very close competition, and just rumors of it being more political than performance.
No.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
can't remember the ins and
Well,
outs
I
of
think
it.
the fact Northrop had just built the B-2 and sold the B-2 to the Air Force.
Oh, you won the bomber program, so
Right.
you
They
can't win the
bomber.
fighter program.
That's the
Right,
one.
so yeah, spread the wealth kind of thing, and I think that's some of the controversy around it, but I can't remember the exact details.
How long ago was this?
Oh, gosh. Early 80s? Yeah.
Yeah, just as I
Was it that far back?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it scary? That's time dilation.
Yeah, craziness.
Cool. One more to go. And drum roll, please.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I wish I had a gun just like the A-10.
Yeah,
Be happy as baby in a playpen.
I do not know that
For
song.
those of you Dos Gringos fans out
Oh,
there.
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is an awesome airplane, great capability, unmatched in close air support. That every time they think about getting rid of it, they realize what a big mistake that would be, because you really just don't have anything that can do what this airplane can do.
Oh, but it's not survivable.
Well, yeah.
Oh, it's come back.
Oh, it's
If it survives
it's
Congress, it can
highly
survive
survivable.
war.
Absolutely.
Right?
I'm gonna use that one.
Yeah.
The gun, I used to be in ground test at Eglin, and I own the gun test facility, and testing that thing will water your eyes. You just don't know. You can't really understand the raw power of that gun until you've been within 6 feet of it while it's going off. And you don't want to be within 6 feet of that gun, even if you're behind it. So, it's an eye-opener.
An aircraft famously designed around a gun.
That's right.
Right.
More than anything. One of the few aircraft with off-center nose gear.
Yep.
Because of said gun up there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I've never really been a huge fan of flying airplanes, either RC airplanes, real airplanes, or anything like that. But I did have a flight simulator game when I was a kid, and the only airplane I would ever fly in was this one. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
The design considerations for it, as Krash says, that they try to get rid of this one every so often, but it is the best close support aircraft in
This
the
is
world.
a good plug for requirements.
It
and
is. It's a
designing
great
and building to
it is a
requirements.
great plug for requirements, because things like the fact that it's got 2 engines mounted on top of the fuselage so that you can't shoot them from below, 2 rudders so that if one gets shot out, you've got another one. The gear doesn't fully retract. The main gear doesn't fully retract, so that you can land on the main gear when it's retracted if you've got systems taken out, like your hydraulics. There is so much about this airplane that PS Brake designed into it. It's incredible that it's still going. It was supposed to have gone out of service years ago, and it's still going because it's just perfect.
So what do they call that? BDT? Battle damage tolerant?
Battle damage tolerant. Yeah. Absolutely. The pilot sits in a titanium bathtub, so it's armored with titanium. So again, small arms, small fire coming up through the bottom of the airplane. Everything about this airplane is designed to a requirement.
Yeah, these guys usually have the best stories too. So,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah,
Can you share one?
a lot
you've
of they're all over LinkedIn. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, there's something about the lines on this particular aircraft that have a very World War II-y vibe to them.
Yep.
The split tail being one. I mean, that was the thing that popped up in some of the early Lockheed aircraft. And then there's just like I'm just looking at the rear of the fuselage right now, and it's either like a B-29 or the Event Horizon from that that space movie. You never see a clean one of these.
No.
They're
And
always
you never should.
dirty, rusty, but
Yep.
they always work. Like,
They do.
what is the readiness rate on the A-10 relative to like the F-35?
Pretty high. Yeah, pretty dang high. And I tell you, this is the jet everybody wants to fly at test pilot school. The reason why is all the pilots who've never flown it. It doesn't have a 2-seat version where you have an instructor. So you go and you have a couple hours of ground instructor time. You have simulator time, and then they give you the keys and you go fly it. So this is why it's highly prized at test pilot school to go fly the A-10. It's kind of feather in your cap, and a unique experience.
Sweet.
Yeah.
A couple interesting things to point out. Let's talk flight test a little bit.
Yeah.
So flight test of this aircraft, if you look at certain features on it, look at the leading edge of the wing, about midway down the span, you'll see stall strips on there. Usually those aren't designed in from the get-go. You find out from flight test and results what you need to fix on the airframe or the outer mold line to make it fly properly. On the inboard right there, you can see it looks like leading edge devices. That's actually, I think those were installed because of the hot gases coming off the gun going into the engine. So that helps to entrain the flow to keep it going into the engines. Little
plane
things like
design
that you
around
find out when you do testing. That's right.
Yeah. That didn't pop up in the analysis? Oops.
Yeah. Maybe it would today.
Probably would today, but
Yeah.
with today's
What we would
tools.
today, without $1 million worth of computing time.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. All right. Well, this has been super fun.
Yeah, let's
I've
do
learned
this
a lot.
again.
Absolutely.
I've gone down
Yeah.
memory lane.
Mm-hmm.
So, fantastic time. Signing off. Later.